Hey everybody, your friend the neighborhood DJ Jazz Hands here with a super awesome treat for you. I'm here with Bob Bergen. Now, if you don't know who Bob Bergen is, one, you've probably been living under a rock. No, but seriously, if you don't know who Bob Bergen is, he is first off, an amazing voice actor. He's been in such stuff as Avengers Assemble, as Winter Soldier. He's been in Spirited Away as No Face, and of course, I think one of his most famous and popular roles as Porky Pig in just about everything that you can think of. Porky Pig, and he's like Porky Pig from Space Jam, Duck Dodgers, so much other stuff. So Bob, thanks so much for taking the time out to sit here and talk to us.
Hey, well, what's going on, Jazz?
Oh man! Oh my God! You have no idea.
Or should I just say Hands? Mr. Hands.
Mr. Hands, Jazz. You can call me pretty much anything. Trust me, I will be 100% fine with it.
Perfect.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Thank you again so much for being here. This is so cool.
My pleasure.
So, okay, I guess kind of easy question. Start right off, the back. For one, you're from St. Louis, correct?
Originally, yeah, I lived there till I was 8, but 50% of my family's still there, so I consider that my home.
How did you get started in voice acting? And kind of on the same wave, how did you get out of St. Louis? I mean,
well, when I was a kid living in St. Louis, when I was 5, I told my mom and dad I wanted to be Porky Pig. And there aren't if you'll know this, there aren't a lot of opportunities to be Porky Pig in St. Louis. And my dad moved us from St. Louis to Cincinnati when I was 8, and from Cincinnati to Los Angeles when I was 14. Mm-hmm. So I just picked up the phone book. There were phone books back then. And I just called everything in the yellow pages that said cartoons, and I got studios and I asked questions. And I ended up calling Mel Blanc, who was the original voice of Porky Pig. He was in the phone book. I asked him for advice. He gave me the name of a studio he was working at that week. Didn't say the date or the time, but he said the name. So when I finished my conversation with him, I called the studio and pretended to be his assistant. So I got the day and the time of his session, and I crashed the session and I watched him work and realized that, okay, if I want to be Porky Pig, I've got to be trained and ready. So I just went back to the phone and called acting schools and voiceover schools and started studying how to get into the voiceover industry, and was represented and working at the time that he passed away, which was 1989. And I had a really good agent who got me into Warner Brothers to audition, and I booked my first Looney Tunes job in 1990. So that's, kind of a shortened version of how I got out of St. Louis and into the business.
That's awesome. I mean, for one, it's so cool because, for a lot of people here who do want to become, voice actors or do want to get into the voice acting industry, you're right. There's not a lot of work here to be, a voice actor, at least character-wise.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of character opportunities in St. Louis. I will tell you that I have taught about 2 or 3 cartoon voiceover classes in St. Louis over the years, and really? The talent is certainly there. But when I do weekend classes outside of L.A., I'm kind of giving people a taste of what is out there if they're interested in going out and pursuing it. Mm-hmm. Because when I was a kid living in the Midwest, if somebody had brought a cartoon voiceover class to me, that would have been, the thing that lit my fire and got me to L.A. So, I'm always hoping that people who are interested in this, if I come to your city and I teach a class, if you go, wow, this is for me, you'll do something about it.
Mm-hmm. What were those classes called, if you don't mind me asking? And...
Oh, just, Bob Bergen animation voiceover class, weekend voiceover class. I've got a page on Facebook that's called All Things Bob Bergen, where I advertise where I'm teaching my weekend classes outside of L.A.
Okay,
and
cool.
People can follow me on Twitter at Bob Bergen. I always post on Twitter where I'm teaching, things like that. So, social media today is like the world's greatest advertising.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So definitely, I know I'm going to go check out those sites, and you can go check out those sites. I'll try to leave them in the link below in the video, and on our Facebook page, facebook.com/STL. No, that's the other one. Facebook.com/TheWaveSTL. I apologize. But yeah, so what was it like meeting, Mel Blanc? Because you've always wanted to be, Porky Pig, and finally kind of getting to meet Porky Pig, himself. This, and not just Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, Foghorn Leghorn. A plethora of characters that, Mel Blanc played. What was it like meeting Mel Blanc?
Yeah, it was like a religious experience. I think about kids who ever wanted to be a baseball player and they meet their hero, or somebody who wants to be a scientist and they meet somebody that they look up to. I was just sitting there with my mom in the recording studio. We were on the side of the studio with the producers, and there's a piece of glass, a window between Mel Blanc and us, and I kept looking at my mom going, I could die today. I mean, this is it. And my mom goes, you can't die today. You want to be Porky Pig. So afterwards, I went up to meet him, and I shook his hand, and he gave me his autograph. And when I called him, by the way, before this session, I taped the conversation. It's on my website. It's illegal to do that. I don't advise people record conversations without letting the other party know.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why I did that, but I've got that conversation, for posterity.
Awesome. Like, so real quick too, because you talked a little bit about your audition tape or your audition tape. Like how has that changed since like back then to kind of now? Because I assume, has it changed a lot back then, or is it?
You mean like a demo?
Yeah. How's the demo changed from
big time
back then to now?
When I got into the business, a demo was on a reel-to-reel, and it was about 5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Today, there is no physical tape. It's all digital. I mean, it went from reel-to-reel to cassette to CD to digital online. You don't physically mail anybody a demo. They're also 1 minute long now because people's attention spans are, ridiculously small.
Mm-hmm.
And you have several demos. Back in the old days, you'd have 1 5-minute demo that kind of demonstrated everything you did. Today, each genre of voiceover requires its own demo. Mm-hmm. So I have a commercial demo. I have a promo demo. I have a narration demo. I have a trailer demo. I have an animation demo. I have a games demo. I have a demo of baby sounds because I do a lot of babies for movies and TV shows and toys and whatnot. Whatever you do as a voice actor can be its own demo. Mm-hmm. And you have to market each demo separately. So the business, technology has made it so marketing is just a click away on the computer, and it's all free. It just takes time, where I used to spend $10,000 a year in padded envelopes and mailings. So the downside is there's more competition. So where it used to be just in the major markets, now anybody anywhere can pursue some kind of voiceover. It may not necessarily be on the same level as me, but people in the Midwest can make a very good living doing voiceover by pursuing it online.
For one, that's really good advice for the people that, are here that want to become voice actors, or in St. Louis, and they don't have the means or the money as of right now to move to LA, to move to New York, to move to one of the bigger cities that provide voiceover work. Now, would you say when you do create a demo reel, is it best to have, because I remember reading that you had like 85 voices on the one you sent to Casey?
Yeah, but they were mostly impressions. So it was Porky, it was Yogi Bear, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Today, for longevity, if you really want to secure an agent and really compete in the animation world, it's all about creating original characters.
Uh-huh.
I was kind of an anomaly, concentrating on one character and doing an impression, but. For people who want to actually compete in the voiceover field, even if it's commercials, it's not about your voice. It's about your acting. It is voice acting, and it's about your personality. So if you had 5 different people, a script for a Honda spot, you should get 5 different interpretations, and that's based on who they are, what their personality is. If you try to be a voiceover person, if you think it's all about what a great voice you have, there's no such thing as a great voice, and there's no such thing as a bad voice. There are only great actors and bad actors. So it's all about the acting.
Awesome. That's really good advice. I know I say awesome quite a lot after these, but this is such good information.
It's an awesome word.
Awesome is awesome, but no, like, really, these are such cool and interesting ideas, and I really like, well, not even ideas, these are cool, almost facts. And I really love when I get to hear this kind of stuff, and it's just so informative, and I love it. But back to the mostly to the demo reel. Would you say that even though they're supposed to be 1 minute, would you say that you can only allow some of your best work to show on a demo reel, or do you think it'd be better to have almost every voice that you can possibly do, even if it's good, bad, as long as it's on the demo reel and you can manipulate it?
No, the demo should only be brilliant. So, better to have 30 seconds of brilliance than another 30 seconds of mediocre, because this is an industry that remembers bad more than they remember good. You want to leave them asking for more with a demo. More would either be an interview, a job, representation, etc. But the moment there's anything mediocre on a demo, they stop listening and they dispose of it.
Okay, interesting. Like, interesting and awesome. So for all the voice actors out there, be sure you got to get your gold. You got to get your gold, not mediocre. And then kind of like piggybacking off of the demo reel within the entire world of voice acting. I mean, because you've been doing it for a while now, and
I was 18 when I got my first agent, but it took me another 5 years of survival jobs and day and night jobs before I was able to quit those and work as a full-time actor. So the entire journey from my first day in a voiceover class to a working actor was 9 years.
Okay. But how has the voice acting world changed? I mean, dramatically from, back then to now. I mean, sure, stuff's different, equipment's different, but how else has it changed, for you?
Well, first of all, when I got into the business, there were 3 networks, ABC, NBC, CBS. They had Saturday morning cartoons, and there were a handful of syndicated shows. Disney would release an animated feature maybe once every 5 to 7 years, and that was it. Mm-hmm. So for everybody out there pursuing animation, there wasn't a lot of work. Today, we have 24-hour animation networks. Every major motion picture studio has a thriving animation department. There's never been more opportunities for people who want to pursue animation voiceover. Besides the 3 networks back then, we now have 5,000 cable channels, all needing commercial voices and promo voices and narration voices. So there's more product out there, but there's also more competition because the Internet has allowed for home studios. There is a lot more non-union work out there. So when I got in the business, it was 100% union. Today, it's more like, I'd say more like 40, 50% union. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to make a living in the major markets, it has to be union because we make our living on residuals. You can't make a living on session fees because it doesn't pay enough. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's all about the residuals. It's all about retirement that goes to with every check and health benefits. So I look at the overall career, not, oh my God, I hope I book this job today. Mm-hmm. So the difference is that people around the country are hearing get rich, make money at voiceover, and that's the biggest mistake they can make. None of us, including myself, ever went into this for the money, and I still don't do it for the money. I do it because, like you said, Sam, you love voiceover, you love radio, and you can't imagine doing anything else. I wake up every morning going, I really get to do this again? I go to Warner Brothers, and I'm like, look what I've been doing Warner Brothers for 26 years. I'm like, I still get to do this? This is the coolest thing. And if you get paid for it, it's circumstantial, and it's the icing on the cake. But I think everybody should find that one thing that they'd be willing to do for free that makes them happy. Now, I'm not saying I want to do it for free because I do have house payments, but you've got to find something in life that really fulfills you.
Yeah, I'm like smiling ear to ear. You don't know how cool that is to hear. Honestly, it's like amazing because I believe full-heartedly too that you got to find something that you love, and to hear that from somebody that's a professional, versus somebody that's like starting out, it's fantastic. It's amazing.
Well, I was at a Christmas party a couple of years ago. I don't know if you know who Rob Paulson is, but he's another voiceover actor. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, "Hey, did you get this for the money?" I mean, he's like, "God, I never expected to get paid for it. I just got into it because I loved it." And to this day, all of us, we're all in the same boat. I was working on a feature film last week with people like Eric Bauza and Debbie Derryberry and E.G. Daly and Josh Keaton, some of the top people in the business, and we're all talking about how we're working on a major motion picture a lot. Oh my God, this is so cool. We're giddy little school kids. And we were all veterans making a really good living at this, and we don't take anything for granted.
That's just cool. That's all I got to say. I'm like speechless right now for that.
You can't be speechless on the radio. It's not mime. It doesn't work that way.
I know, exactly. But so I guess to kind of switch gears a little bit, because it is now the 15th anniversary for Spirited Away, and they've recently, Regal and I think a couple other movie theaters have played the Spirited Away movie in theaters.
Are they playing the dubbed version, or are they playing the original Japanese?
It's actually cool. They got both.
Oh, okay, cool.
So,
because anime fans, some of them will only watch the original Japanese, and some of them are cool with the American translation. So yeah, I never know who when I go to a fan convention what they like, what they don't like.
Yeah, exactly, and because I got to see both because I got like a review and everything coming up, and we got some fans stuff coming up for that. But I want to know, from you, because you were the little frog guy in Spirited Away, as well as No Face.
Right.
And No Face is like he's an iconic character. So for you, what was it like working on a Miyazaki film and knowing that 15 years later, because when we went to the movie theaters, it was packed. I mean, people love this movie. It's like a classic to them.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a classic to
cool.
them.
I will tell you that it wasn't my first Miyazaki project. My first Miyazaki project was a movie called Castle of Cagliostro, which is a Lupin III film.
Oh, cool.
And that was also Miyazaki's very first cartoon. Spirited Away came about in a kind of a weird way. I've done a lot of films for Pixar, and John Lasseter and the Pixar crew produced the English dub of Spirited Away. So I didn't even audition for it. They just called me, and we did it at Disney, and they just called me to go work, and they said, we'd like you to play this character, and this character. And I went, okay. And when you do anime dubbing, you only work on the parts of the film that you're in. It wasn't until I actually went to see it that I really knew what the story was, and, Miyazaki is... I can't comprehend how creative he is and how he thinks of story and character and the colors and the animation. So it was an interesting experience. But when you work on a film or you work on a project, you have no idea if there's going to be anything lasting, if people are going to even like it. You work on a thing and you move on. I mean, I've worked on animated films where it's released 2 to 4 years later, so you don't know what the audience response is going to be, and you also don't even remember what, I mean, I probably worked on Spirited Away for 1 or 2 days. You're talking about 2 days in the life of an actor who's over 50 years old. So I don't know. I don't even remember the recording sessions that much. I do remember going to the screening with my manager at the time, and when it was over, she looked at me and she goes, "Boy, that was like trippy." And I said, "I know." She goes, "How did you figure all this stuff out?" And I said, "Well, I just did scene by scene, and I really didn't know what the story was. So as long as my scenes worked," they said, "Great, cut, print, move on."
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, did you have to learn beforehand to do both Lupin the Third, which, by the way, awesome film. Love Lupin.
Thank you.
Love Lupin the Third. And, Spirited Away, did you have to learn prior the dubbing process beforehand, or were they just like, okay, this is what you have to do, this is kind of what you go, let's see if you can match it up, and then boom, go?
No, I got into it by circumstance. I was interviewing with a television film agent for on-camera work, and he saw on my resume that I was a voiceover actor, and he referred me to a guy who does, it's called ADR, Automated Dialogue Replacement, or looping. And he recommended me to a casting director who did looping, and he called me up and he said, "I've got a film, you want to come in and audition for it?" And I did, and I booked it, and it was revoicing an actor throughout an entire film, which is done all the time, and people don't even know it, that actors are revoiced. And I just learned by doing. You can't really study it. There may be a handful of workshops, but that's not really going to teach you the craft. I think that timing is something you're born with. So once you prove yourself on the stage where you can actually match the sync and perform at the same time, that casting director is going to remember you because they need talent. So I met that one guy who worked for him. He's passed away now, but he started my looping career, and I was doing, 2 or 3 films a week for him for about 10, 20 years.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And it's also really nice to know for the people who, do want to become voice actors, and they actually want to get into the anime more so than the, traditional cartoons. I will tell you that, anime dubbing has probably the greatest fandom of anything that we do, and probably pays worse than anything we do. You don't go into anime to make a lot of money. I mean, the money is terrible. There are no residuals. Agents don't even represent actors for anime. But you do it because it's fun, and you do it because you have a love for the genre, and you do it because when you go to an anime convention, those fans are just killer awesome. Yeah, I agree. I've been to a lot of cool anime conventions, and everybody seems to always have such a good time, and the fandoms are so so crazy and just so dedicated to the craft or whatever they love. And so it's awesome, and it's nice to get the other side of things instead of just being on the fandom side. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So back to Miyazaki. I mean, for No Face, like, what was that like playing No Face? Because granted, you said you didn't really know a lot of the context outside of the whole film, but I mean, looking at it now, you know, what was it like playing, you know, No Face, essentially the antagonist almost in the movie for a certain amount?
You know, I so wish I could give you some romantic story of getting into character and the acting that was involved, but it was probably recorded 16 years ago, and I don't remember. It was movies ago. I remember doing it. I remember being in the room, but I don't remember anything specific about his person. I just found him lonely. I remember that. I remember when I was playing him, I was like, he's such a sad, lonely character. And I remember saying to the producers, can I pep him up a little bit just for a little joy in his life? And they're like, no, he's this lonely thing, and he's seeking and he's searching. There's nothing going to be peppy about him. So thank God I had that little frog to play because he was a little bit more peppy.
That's so cool. That's so cool still. That's so cool. So we got to now talk about, you know, the pig himself, Porky.
All right.
We got to talk about Porky. I mean, we have to. So, like, when you first got the role of Porky, like, first off, what was that like for you, and how did that whole thing come about?
Well, I'd wanted to be Porky since I was 5. When we moved to L.A., after I called Mel Blanc, I started studying with a guy named Dawes Butler, who was pretty much everything Mel Blanc wasn't. He was, you know, Yogi Bear and Elroy Jetson and Snagglepuss and all those classic Hanna-Barbera characters. And I studied with Dawes off and on for 10 years, and some of my fellow classmates in his class were Nancy Cartwright and Greg Berger and Greg Burson, Mona Marshall, Bill Farmer, voice of Goofy. I mean, just, you know, the people who are my working peers today. So it was a great class, and it was a very talented group of students. I had been sending Warner Brothers cassette tapes. I didn't know if they were... I just would, like, literally send a cassette tape to Warner Brothers and hope that somebody would listen to it. Never heard back. And so when I was working in the business and they started holding auditions for Porky, I think I had like a dozen callbacks. And my last callback was for a guy named Chuck Jones, who was one of the animators who created the Looney Tunes. And I went to shake his hand at the audition, and he said, "Why are you so nervous?" Because I was shaking when I shook his hand, and I said, I'm about to do Porky Pig for Chuck Jones. It's like doing Jesus for God." And that made him laugh, and it made me laugh, and it kind of warmed up the moment. And then I didn't hear anything back for several months, and I had just bought my first condo. And I was out at a voiceover session. My mom was at my condo waiting for a couch to be delivered, and she was the one that took the call from my agent that I booked my first Porky Pig job, which was Tiny Toon Adventures. So it was really cool that my mom, who'd been hearing I want to be Porky Pig since I was 5 years old, was the person who got the phone call from my agent that I booked the first job. So Tiny Toon Adventures was my first gig as Porky, and the night that I booked it, my parents took me out for dinner, and I just thought it was appropriate. I ordered pork chops for dinner.
That is so cool. That's fantastic, and that is so appropriate. You know, like the circumstances just being that your mom would pick up right when it's like, oh yeah, you got the gig. You got the gig.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been driving her nuts since I was a kid, and you know, moms don't want their kids to go into show business. I mean, my parents were very supportive. They paid for all my classes. They paid for my first demos. But I know in the back of their minds they're thinking, please, doctor, lawyer, anything but. So, you know, to see my passion and to know that I wanted nothing more out of my life than to do this and to be the one to get the call from my agent, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. So when you first started doing, you know, the role of Porky and the Porky ever since, did you try to bring something kind of maybe new to the character to kind of maybe either update him or something, or did you really try to stick to what the character that Mel Blanc, you know, voiced for so many years and just a continuation of what Mel Blanc has done?
Well, I will tell you that those of us that have been doing his voices since he passed away, none of us come close to him. I don't sound a thing like Mel Blanc. If you listen to us, you know, next to each other, I don't sound a darn thing like Mel Blanc. I remember when I first started doing the character, well, not for Tiny Toons because they didn't have any reference tapes for Tiny Toons, but for subsequent jobs, for commercials and games and toys and whatnot, they would play me like a 5-6 minute compilation tape of Mel Blanc cartoons. Mm-hmm. But some of the clips were from the 30s, some from the 40s, and some from the 50s. And I would say, well, what do you want? Because his voice changed with each decade. The character evolved with each decade. I kind of personally decided Mel Blanc and Porky were at their prime in the mid-50s, which would be the Duck Dodgers, Drip Along Daffy, Robin Hood Daffy era. Mm-hmm. So when I do Porky, I really concentrate on that generation of Porky. Mm-hmm. But for me, two things. Number one, the hardest thing for me to say, honestly, is "that's all, folks." Because Mel only said it once in the early 30s, the very first time he ever did Porky. Mm-hmm. And they stopped using Porky's "that's all, folks" before 1940. He never said it again until the 80s when he was doing publicity. So the way he said "that's all, folks" in those early cartoons is a far cry from the way the character sounded in the mid-50s, the way I like to play him. Uh-huh. So every time I have a "that's all, folks" session, they look at me weird because you don't sound like him from the original. I know I don't. And I have to go through the whole mishigash with them. Uh-huh. The other thing that's not, I wouldn't say difficult, but challenging, in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and even the 60s, there were no cell phones. There was no internet. So we're doing cartoons today referencing contemporary culture and pop culture. The cartoons back then did the same thing. Uh-huh. But we were fans of cartoons growing up that were done 40 years before we were born. So now we're doing brand new versions of cartoons with references of today. So I have to figure out, well, Porky, how's Porky going to talk about cell phones? How's he going to talk about the World Wide Web and internet? And so that is a challenge, but it's still the character. And to keep the integrity of the character, that's my goal. I work with the directors. There may be a line where I'd say, hey, can I try it this way? It's a little bit more Porky-esque. And they never say no. I have no control over which take they eventually print. Mm-hmm. But I'm not shy about saying, hey, that's not real Porky. Let me try it this way. So, again, it's collaborative.
Has there been, a favorite moment for you, though, to play as Porky?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, it's all about the writing. When the writing is good, that's when you're at your happy place as an actor. I'm doing a show right now. The current name is Wabbit, but I understand they're going to possibly be changing the name. I don't know when that's going to happen, but the writing that we're doing on this series is as close to a 1938 Looney Tunes than anything else I've ever done. It is, the fans are going to go crazy when they see Porky and Daffy together on this series, because it's not greedy Duck Dodgers Daffy. It's wacky, zany 1930s woohoo Daffy. Ooh. And diehard fans haven't seen that Daffy since Mel Blanc died. They didn't see that Daffy since original, because Mel Blanc didn't play that Daffy the last 20 years of his life. To me, right now, we're doing something that is the standout, and I go to work, and I am just giddy to be able to say these words. We're using pop culture in satire, in farce, the way they did in the originals, and it's working. It doesn't feel forced. It feels organic. So what we're doing right now, I think, is the coolest. And I would say the other coolest thing was last year. There's a show called Bugs Bunny at the Symphony where they play classic cartoons with a live orchestra, and it was performed at the Hollywood Bowl this year. And they invited me to come out and do a tribute to Mel Blanc. And the Hollywood Bowl holds 18,000 people, and I taught 18,000 people how to do Porky Pig. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Oh my God, you have no idea how cool that is to me. That was definitely a highlight. That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, I mean, for me, like I said, you're Porky, and it's always fantastic. And I always love when I see a new Looney Tunes cartoon kind of pop up out of nowhere. And I get to hear all the voices that I've essentially grown up with, and really, really, I mean, everybody knows, Porky Pig, Bugs Bunny, and so it's always nice to see these characters come back for this next generation to get to know, and I mean, it's awesome, and thank you a lot for the work too. I just gotta say that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Now, a couple more, which is like one or two more questions, and then I shall let you go. I know you've been here for a while, and again, I appreciate that. But is there any advice you could give to up-and-coming voice actors that are people that want to become voice actors? Is there any like really golden advice that you could possibly give? Yeah, the word is actor. Become an actor first. Study theater. If you're in high school, if you're in junior high, do your school plays. Do local community theater. Study acting. Study improv. And then study voiceover, because if you go into voiceover classes without an acting background, you're going to be spinning your wheels and spending a lot of money. Mm-hmm. What people have today that I didn't have when I was studying is the internet. So they can go to. Do you know what VO Buzz Weekly is?
No, I do not.
All right, VO Buzz Weekly. Google it. There are over 200 episodes where every major player in the world of voiceover are interviewed, from agents to actors to casting directors. It's free. You have a college education online researching the world of voiceover. There's a documentary I participated in called "I Know That Voice." It's on Netflix. Watch it. Just get an education on the business of voiceover and what other actors are doing. Go to IMDb and research the players, the actors, the writers, the producers, the people that actually make the cartoons. Connect with them on social media. You'd be amazed how many people would be thrilled to connect with you. On Twitter, find me on Twitter. You find Debbie Derryberry on Facebook, and I would like to get into voice acting. I'm telling you right now, Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson, everybody talks to everybody. It's a wonderful time. I had to track Mel Blanc down in phone books. Everybody's a click away online. Mm-hmm. So immerse yourself in this industry and know that it's a business. Don't just dive in and say, I've got a great voice. Study it, be prepared. When you're ready for that demo, make it. Don't make it until you're ready. And know what you want out of your voiceover career and be willing to do more than anybody else. And if animation is your thing, you have to move to L.A. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Anime, lots of anime dubbed in Texas. Mm-hmm. Commercials, anywhere in the country. But if you want to pursue the entertainment industry, you've got to want it more than anybody else. You've got to be willing to do it, do more than anybody else, and you can't go into show business or the arts for the money because it'll never feel satisfying.
That's fantastic advice. I love to hear that kind of stuff. So, are there any new projects coming up for you that you're willing to talk about or that you can talk about?
That I can talk about, because that's the thing. We do a lot of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. I just worked on the new Smurfs movie that comes out in July. Mm-hmm. I'm in Secret Life of Pets. I'm in Minions. I'm in Trolls. I'm in this new Looney Tunes series that we're recording season 2 right now. Uh-huh. And we start recording season 3 in January, and I'm waiting for them to air season 1. So I hear rumors about a Space Jam 2. Ooh. Right now it's just rumors, and I've not been asked to do it. Uh-huh. So I don't know anything else about it other than what the fans know. And lots of commercials and promos. I just did some promos for Cartoon Network, so, I'm a busy guy.
Yeah, yeah, but still, it's still cool. Like, it's still cool, and thank you so much, Bob Bergen. It's
my pleasure. This is fun.
It's been fantastic talking to you, and again, thanks. It's awesome.
Oh, my pleasure, Sam.
So, all right, everybody, follow the link below if you want to check out the Spirited Away fan reaction as well as the Spirited Away review, and stay tuned to 89.5 The Wave, because hopefully we got a lot more coming. So, all right, everybody, bye.
Bye, folks.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, thank you.